Welcome to Managing Your Quarter Life Crisis, sponsored by the Hyatt Career Center at Brandeis University. My name is Alexandra Stevens, and I will be moderating our discussion today with Pamela Weinberg. I just wanted to let you know that this webinar also will be recorded and posted online for later viewing, as well as the slides. Pamela is a Brandeis alum, class of 1987. And she is a New York-based independent career coach and personal branding strategist. She works with clients in all phases of career development. And Pamela has developed a niche in personal branding and speaks on the topic frequently to students and alumni at various universities across the country. She also works with her clients to help them build their personal brands through social media and through public relations and networking. And we're so excited to have her here touching on this very interesting topic of the quarter life crisis. So Pamela, thanks so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. And hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. So before we get started, Alexandra gave such a lovely introduction about me. So you learned a little bit, you had a chance to learn a little bit about who I am and what I do. And I'd love to learn a little bit about all of you. So Alexandra, if we could launch the first poll, that would be great.
Absolutely. So we'll be launching a series of 3 polls throughout the broadcast today just to make it a little more interactive for all of you. So we're going to go ahead and launch the first poll. And so you can let us know, what is your current employment status? Are you happily employed? Are you employed but seeking something a little different? Are you unemployed and looking for a new job or a new career entirely? Or are you considering about attending or actually attending graduate school? And I'll give you just a few more seconds to weigh in. And then I will share the results with all of you. And Pamela will be touching on a lot of these things in the webinar today. So a couple more seconds to weigh in. We'd love to get full participation. All right, and then we're going to close the poll and share those results with you. So Pamela, about a quarter of the attendees today are happily employed, which is great. 35% are employed but seeking, and 41% are unemployed and seeking. So no one currently attending graduate school.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm hoping through the content today I'll be able to have some information for everyone. And of course, please feel free to type in any questions you may have, and we can get to those at the end of the webinar today. So let's launch into managing your quarter life crisis. So what is a quarter life crisis? We're going to talk about that a little bit. Figure out if, yes, you are having one, and if you are, how we're going to help you to feel better and move forward. That's going to be the theme of today, moving forward. So does this look like you? Are you perhaps unhappy in your job, worried about what you're going to do next, maybe feel like your friends and peers are all happier and more successful than you are? If your answer to any of those questions is yes, then you may be experiencing a quarter life crisis, and you're quite normal in feeling a lot of those feelings. Many of us feel that way. We're going to talk a little bit more about why that is coming up soon. So hopefully, as I said, by the end of today, at the end of the presentation, you'll feel like you have some tools to get a jump start on a new start. So look at this happiness by age graph. We can see, they say the best 4 years of your life, maybe you're in college. So we can sort of see our happiness chart really peaking at our college graduation, and then the terribly steep decline thereafter. So if you're feeling a little blue and a little bit like you're having that quarter life crisis, you're not alone, because many people are a lot less happy right post-college than they were during college or even the years leading up to college. People with acne as teenagers were happier than people are at 26. So that should tell you something. So you're not alone in feeling that way. So what are some things that have contributed to this quarter life crisis? What do some of these images have in common that we're seeing right here? So some of the contributing factors are that it really is a reaction to entering the real world post-college for the first time, being on your own, being independent, not having your peer group to fall back on or living in a dorm or an apartment together, maybe for the first time not having anybody paying for your rent, no one's paying for your tuition, you're not on a meal plan, you're in the real world and really dependent upon yourself wholly for the first time. And it is true that unemployment and choosing a career path is a major cause of anxiety for young adults. And how about the world that you are all millennials are growing up in? It's a very different generation. There's a real lack of positive social role models, and with social media being prevalent and everywhere, it's very hard to feel successful and happy. There's a lot of FOMO. Everyone around you looks like they're maybe having a better time than you are. They're maybe more successful than you are. They've become, a millionaire tech genius at age 20, and here you are at 26, maybe, unhappy in your first job. And you're growing up in a world with real life events that provoke a sense of insecurity. 9/11, Columbine, the ongoing wars and strife that our country is facing. It's tough going. So if you're feeling insecure, you may have reason to feel that way. So don't feel alone in feeling that way. And I think social media often, while it has so much good, it also can really be detrimental in feeling good about yourself. So let's think about making a change. And let's start here with our career roadmap. So we really want to think about what it is that you want to do now. Forget about what your major was in college. Forget about what your first job was. Maybe you're happy at your first job. Maybe you're not happy and you're seeking a job. Maybe you're not working right now and seeking a job. Let's think about what it is that you want to do now. So going back to that sort of first job out of college, I don't know if any of you make pancakes. So anyone who knows how to make pancakes knows that your first pancake is usually not so good. We call it like the starter pancake. No matter how good your batter is, the starter pancake sometimes doesn't come out so well. The better ones and the more fully formed ones and the prettier ones often come later in the batch. So I love for people to think about sort of their first job in that way as the starter pancake, and know that it certainly won't be your last job. And I can tell any of you who are looking for jobs now that whatever job you get now won't be your last job either. The average millennial has 10 to 12 jobs in their lifetime. So that's a good feeling. I think, I'm hoping that statistic helps to take some of the pressure off, that your next job doesn't have to be the perfect job or the perfect fit. It might be that bridge job that gets you from, where you are now to the next place you want to be going, something that's sort of interim. But your next job will certainly be a better fit than your first job is. So through today's webinar, we're going to talk about, setting your objectives, doing some research for your next job, and putting together an action plan for you to get there. So let's start here. Rediscovering your passions and interests and strengths. These are things that you might have thought about, when you were a college senior or a college junior, when you were thinking about what kind of internships you wanted, thinking about what your major is and what kind of jobs that might lead you to. And oftentimes, we change. We hope we change. We change, we grow, we develop new interests, things that used to interest us maybe aren't so interesting anymore. Our values become different. So these are things we want to really take time to reassess now, whether you're 2 years or 10 years out of college. You've probably picked up some new skills and new interests. So it's a great time to reassess what those are. Your skills and interests may not always match up, and you may have some skills. You may have been, say, a math major, and you're really good at math and you're really good at numbers and analysis, but it may not be what you want to be doing right now. So just because you have certain skills doesn't mean you want to use them in your next job or your next career. So that's something to think about as well. Values. What's important to you? Is doing good in the world important to you, or working at a company that you feel, shares the same values as you? That may not have been how you felt when you graduated. Perhaps money was your biggest driver at that point. We all, these things change, and it's great to have the opportunity to sort of sit back and think about that and look at what that is. There are lots of great assessments that can help you to do that. And if you want to do some of these assessments, you can do them through Hyatt, and I know Alexandra will talk to you more about that at the end of the webinar, but they will provide you free access to many of these fantastic assessment tools, which can help you really learn more about yourself, what your strengths are, what your values are, and how those line up with certain jobs. Two that I really like are Type Focus and Strength Finders, and Hyatt also has the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs test that they can give to you, which is another terrific way to really learn more about yourself and what you're good at and how you work. Something else that I think is a terrific, easy thing to do is to assemble a personal board of directors. All of us are really good at something. Most of us are really good at more than one thing. Sometimes we don't know what that is. Things that come really naturally to us, we can sometimes take for granted. Somebody who's a great writer who can bang out a blog post or an email really quickly may not realize that this is a skill that not everybody possesses. So ask your friends, ask your family, ask your colleagues, your boss, people that you've worked with, what are you good at? If you don't know the answer, what are you the go-to person for? What is it that everyone comes and says to you, hey, Janet, can you do this for me? I know this is really your area of expertise. And think about that, and think about how that may inform what your next job is going to look like, what skills you can utilize. So we talked about research. So doing research for your new job is super important. There are lots of great tools to do that. You can access many of them through Hyatt or on your own. Two that I like are vault.com and glassdoor.com. Those are excellent resources to research both jobs and industries and specific companies to learn more about specific jobs. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has a great listing of the fastest growing careers, and they actually break it down oftentimes by zip code, by area, so you'll know in your specific area what the hot jobs and companies are and who's hiring in them. You can learn much more about specific jobs doing informational interviews. I can't stress that enough. And doing that through your alumni base is a great way to do it, to find a Brandeis alum who perhaps has the kind of job that you're thinking about getting, or you're thinking about, becoming interested in a certain area. You'd be able to find somebody through perhaps the Brandeis LinkedIn page, LinkedIn group, alumni groups who have those types of jobs and contact them to speak with them about what they do. You may want to think about getting an advanced degree or an additional degree in another area. It may be a master's degree. It may be a certificate in a different area. Maybe you've been in finance but really want to learn more about real estate. There are lots of ways to do this. Online, there's lots of different online degree classes that you can take from great universities. You can look into community colleges near you that often have continuing education programs. Those are some good ways to look into getting those additional education classes and lectures in your interest area. Lynda.com offers online tutorials on tons of career-related things. If you want to pick up new skills, learn about new research tools, research techniques in lots of different industries. It's a wonderful resource. You can access it through LinkedIn. Pivot Planet is something that I love. It's a website that you can go on, and it actually allows you to try out a new career by shadowing somebody for a week or a month, or getting a mentor. Say you've always wanted to open a bakery. You can find somebody on Pivot Planet who owns a bakery who's willing to let you shadow them. There is a cost involved. This is not free, but it's a great way to really learn something, learn about a new job or career, really in a very hands-on way. So we talked about, sort of setting goals and deciding what we want to do and making a plan to do that. One of the best ways to set goals and to lay them out for yourself is creating a personal mission statement. I firmly believe that everybody should have one. It's a wonderful way to keep your career on track, and especially if you're looking for a new career, it really will help you guide your career exploration. And even if I know some of you who logged on are happily employed, everybody should have a mission statement, no matter what phase your career is in. It's a great way for you to continue to grow and expand in your current career. I like to say it's your personal GPS for your career and life choices. It also can help you start the basis for your elevator pitch. For those of you who are job seeking or networking, important to have an elevator pitch as well. I'll talk a little bit more of that later. So here's a sample personal mission statement. Oftentimes I do this webinar as an in-person workshop, and if we were doing this in person, I would have everyone take 10 minutes to just get a head start on their sample mission statement. I don't want to use 10 minutes of our webinar time in doing that, but it would be terrific if you could sort of take a look at this sample and maybe think about how you would be building one yourself. So I'm actually going to read it so we can take it apart a little bit, and I can explain the theory behind it. So this is from a client who I worked with who's 25, a millennial, and she wanted to get a job in development, which would allow her to use many of the skills that she has gotten through both her volunteer work and her fundraising for her community center. So she was somebody who was going to change careers. She had done some development work as a volunteer, but she decided she really enjoyed it, so wanted to switch careers to go get a job in development. So she's laying out how she's going to do this, and I like to sort of have 3 tactical strategies to get to your goal. So these were her 3. She wanted to take a class in nonprofit management. She was going to join a professional association to do some networking, and she was going to obtain a volunteer position to gain experience and to build her resume. So once she took a class in nonprofit management, so that was one of the strategies that she already achieved, we would add a new one, because your mission statement is always meant to be growing and changing. As you reach one goal, you're going to continue to add another. So this is one sample. There's lots of different types of templates you can look at. And I've given at the bottom of the page here 2 different websites you can look at, quidcareers.com and timethoughts.com, to look at some personal mission statement examples if you're interested. So we are going to talk about the job market for 2016 for those of you who are looking for jobs or thinking about making a career change. But before we do that, I'd love to launch our second poll. Alexandra, would you launch the second poll, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who mentioned you were seeking employment, whether you're currently employed or unemployed at the moment, if you are looking for a new opportunity, is it at your current company, at a brand new company, in a new industry entirely? So are you switching careers? Is it an entrepreneurial venture? Are you thinking of starting your own business or joining a startup? Or is it freelance and part-time work, which Pamela is going to talk about the increasing popularity of those types of positions. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds just to weigh in. If you take a look at your screen, the multiple choice question is right there. And then I will share the results. And please know these are all shared in aggregate, just percentage-wise. So no one will know that it's you who's responded. So I'll give you just a couple more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and then share the results with you. So Pamela, it looks like more than half of folks are looking for new opportunities at a new company. 32% are looking in a new industry entirely, and then 9% are thinking the startup route, and about 5% are going the freelance route. So primarily new company and new industry. So we have some career changers.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. And thank you all for participating in the poll. That's super helpful. So interestingly enough, one of the top trends, which we're not seeing on this webinar, but maybe don't put a thought into some people's heads, is the emergence of portfolio careers and side hustles. Studies have shown that 1 out of 3 Americans are now freelancing. So it's pretty interesting that is sort of gone are the days of one job for life, one career for life. Lots of people have other interests and are doing things on the side of maybe even their full-time jobs. So there's actually some really fun websites. If you just go on to like Google side hustle, you'll be able to find some great information about what types of side hustles there are out there. But some things that people do on the side, I have clients that are bakers on the side, do side event planning, photography. So pretty interesting. Lots of different things you can do on the side of your permanent job. For those of you who are thinking about switching companies, industries, diversity mandates are very, very important to most big companies right now. And believe it or not, for finance, consulting, diversity often means women at the top echelons because there's been such a brain drain in those industries of women leaving the workplace. So pretty interesting to think about. The Mid-Atlantic and Southeast are the hottest regions for hiring right now. So any of you listening are in those areas, you're in a growth area for hiring. And the hot industries right now are anything green, healthcare, technology, of course, mobile and analytics most specifically, and corporate social responsibility, which is really, in most every Fortune 500 company now. So some of the featured resources, I mentioned this before actually, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. and ONET online, and these are both excellent resources to really learn specifics about industries and occupations where you live, which is what's wonderful about it. What the hot jobs are, hot companies are, hot industries are, who's hiring for what types of positions, and what salaries you can expect to get. So those are some great resources for career changers. So let's start preparing for your job search. So of course you'll need to have a resume put together. LinkedIn profile, you want that to be up to date, and from what I am hearing, people are finding LinkedIn profiles even more important than resumes right now. Your LinkedIn profile is, oftentimes what a hiring manager is going to see first. They may be finding you on LinkedIn. Business cards, have business cards made even if you're unemployed, so you have something to give out when you're asking for someone else's card. It just helps to really professionalize your job search. Develop and create an elevator pitch. You want to be able to talk about who you are and what you want and where you're headed. It's so important for any type of networking call you're going to have, for your job interviews, or even just, you never know, you could be meeting your next boss online at Starbucks. You really want to be able to talk about yourself, your skills, and what type of job you're looking for in less than a minute. And having your personal mission statement done is really a great way to start that process. I talked to you before about my client who we had the personal mission statement example, who did some volunteer work in order to learn more about a job that she wants. I love the idea of smart volunteering for those of you who are unemployed, or even those of you who are employed and might have a little bit of free time. It's a great way to try out a new career. Lots of times volunteer positions lead to permanent paid positions. I've had many clients who that's happened to, being in the right place at the right time. Proving yourself, making yourself really stand out is wonderful. Wonderful way to get in the door, and employers get a free look at you as a volunteer. And if that doesn't happen, if you're volunteering and it doesn't turn into full-time work, it's still a wonderful way to build your resume and to gain skills in the area in which you would like to move. So it's a win-win. Networking. So 80% of jobs are gotten through people who we know. That's a huge number. So most people, I find, spend probably 80% of their time looking at jobs online and submitting resumes, through the internet. So somebody once had given me this analogy, and I think it's such a good one, that looking for a job online is like taking your resume and throwing it out the window and hoping it lands in the right hands. So it's not the most efficient way to job search. The chances are your next job is going to come from somebody who knows you or who you know. Maybe it's a friend of a friend, or a colleague, or somebody who's working at a company where you would like to be working, who's a Brandeis alum. These are the things you should be thinking about in looking for your next job. I can't stress the importance of networking. So know what you're looking for. Again, back to this 2-minute pitch or elevator pitch. Practice that. So if you have the opportunity and you meet someone who you feel could be in a position to help you, know what you want, be specific. It's much easier for people to help you if you have a specific ask, not just saying, I'm looking for a new job, I would do anything. I'm looking for a new job in the banking industry where I can really utilize my technology skills. You want to be as specific as possible so people know how to help you. You've gotten your business cards made, carry them with you. You never know when you're going to be able to utilize it. Follow up and keep in touch. This is so important. I had a client and I was talking to him about networking, and I said, have you done some networking? He said, yeah, I did that already. So I sort of chuckled. So networking is not something that you do once. Networking is really about building a relationship. You want to, you have that initial meeting. You want to find reasons and ways to keep in touch. Maybe it's sending an article that you read that you think would be of interest to the person who you met. Maybe you know that they're a Boston Red Sox fan and you just read a great piece about what's going on with the Red Sox. Send it to them. This does not have to be every touch with them. Does not and should not be about asking for a job. It's about building a relationship with them. Ask for informational interviews, use your Brandeis network, use your other network from friends of yours who work at other companies. Join professional organizations in the fields that you're interested. From what I hear, many of you are looking at new industries. Find those professional organizations in those industries and join them, and join those groups on LinkedIn as well. And of course, utilize the Brandeis Alumni Network, which is going to have people in every industry, in every state who would be willing and happy to speak to you. I think some crazy high statistic, like 90% of alumni are willing to help another alum or speak to another alum. So please don't overlook your Brandeis network as well. Social media for job search. So, I sort of started out, a bit negatively about social media from a FOMO standpoint, and I really do believe that's true. But social media is really important for your job search. So there's so many, as we see from this graphic, so many social media areas that you could choose from to network and look for a job. I would say if you're going to choose one, make that one LinkedIn. That's where recruiters are looking for candidates. That's where candidates are looking for jobs. This is your professional business network. So if you're going to, be on one and really give that one your care and feeding, make it LinkedIn. So what are the things you should be doing on LinkedIn to create a great profile? You want to have an appropriate photo, a professional photo. And when I say professional, I don't mean it needs to be taken by a professional photographer. I mean you should be in professional attire. This is not Facebook. You want to be dressed appropriately, business attire, whatever your business is. For some people who work, on Wall Street or in more corporate jobs, that might be a shirt and a tie. For others in more creative fields, it might just be, a nice, neat top, and you're fine. You want to have a white background, a solid background. You don't want to have anything going on in the background. You want to have a creative headline. So what happens on LinkedIn, it's very intuitive, and a lot of it becomes, the default. So if your last job was, director of Hyatt Career Center or Brandeis University, that's what's going to come up on your LinkedIn profile. You may not want that to be on your LinkedIn. You may be someone who's changing careers. You may be someone who has a lot of other skills and interests. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, and I hope many of you will connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do that, you'll see that my headline really outlines a few different aspects of my career. I say career coach / personal branding strategist / professional speaker. Those are 3 different aspects of my career and 3 things that I want people to know about, because if people are looking for a career coach, they'll find me, and if they're looking for perhaps a speaker for their university, they'll find me as well. So you wanted to utilize that function and change your headline to something that's more reflective of where you are now. Professional summary. So for somebody like myself who specializes in personal branding, it's so important to have your professional summary, your summary section, and that's not one of the default sections on LinkedIn. You have to choose to have a summary. And what's so nice about the summary is it really lets people know who you are and what you're all about. It helps you to tell your story. A resume is so one-dimensional, and LinkedIn, you really get that. You're able to really get the additional dimension of hearing your voice tell your story. How did you get where you are today? If you are a career changer, that this is your opportunity to talk about the skills that you gained from one career and how you're transferring them into your next career. So don't miss the opportunity to have a terrific summary. You want to have your keywords in your skills section and throughout your LinkedIn profile. Say you're looking for a job in marketing, and it's a new industry for you, and you're not really certain what those skills are that would be important. Go onto LinkedIn, do a job search for marketing jobs, look at some of those job descriptions, and you will start to see the same words and phrases all throughout. You know, you've looked at 10 job descriptions, you're going to come up with lots of the same phrases. Make sure to pepper your LinkedIn profile with some of those keywords. If you're a good researcher, make sure to put in the words research. That may be a very important part of a marketing job, that somebody has those research skills or quantitative skills or whatever it is for your industry. Just make sure you know what those are and make sure to have those in your profile. Recommendations. I recommend for recommendations one per job or per company. If you've been at a job for a long time, you may want to get more than one. And you also can get, people that you work with, bosses or peers, or depending on what kind of job you have, it could be vendors who you've worked with or companies that you sold to. Anybody who can really vouch for whatever the skills are most important to you. You want to connect with as many people as possible, everyone that you meet, people that you've networked with. Make sure that you just, as a rule, connect. Follow companies where you would like to work, that you want to do business with. Utilize that search feature to find jobs and connections, and join groups that are in the industry that you are currently working in or that you are looking to work in. And of course, I mentioned this before, you want to make sure to join your Brandeis alumni group as well. Facebook. So I'm sure most of you are on Facebook, and you may or may not want to utilize Facebook for your job search. If you don't, make sure your privacy settings are really ironclad to the best of your ability. If you want to use Facebook for your job search, I think it's a great idea to at least let your Facebook friends, quote unquote, know that you're in the job market, because typically your friends on Facebook are different than your contacts on LinkedIn. You may have friends on Facebook who you went to college with or high school with, or you're no longer in touch with, but they may be a terrific person to network with. They may be in the field that you're looking to go into, and they wouldn't know that you're looking for a job unless you told them. So, throw it up in your status. You can, inbox people if you know what they do, and let them know that you're in the job market and what you are looking for. You can also, every company has fan pages. You should be joining fan pages for companies that you're interested in working with. It's a great way to get some, inside info on what's going on at those companies and sort of get a sense to what they're all about. Twitter. So if you're going to do another, of course, I love LinkedIn. I think it's, you need to be on it to look for a job. I would say if you have time for one other, I would say to get on Twitter, at least to do some job and company research. It's the best way to get up-to-the-minute, up-to-date information about companies that you're interested in working for. Follow those companies. If you want to go into commercial real estate, make a list of the 15 or 20 commercial real estate companies that interest you, and make sure to follow those companies on Twitter. Follow the people who write about commercial real estate on Twitter, and retweet their posts. That really is going to start help you gain your own profile in that industry. You can also send direct messages to develop relationships and search for jobs on Twitter. I have a resource here where you can find jobs on Twitter. The great thing about Twitter, for those of you who are going on job interviews, if you follow those companies on Twitter that interest you and you have the opportunity to interview there, you will be the smartest candidate in the room. You will have the most up-to-the-minute information about what's going on at that company. So it's just a terrific way to really make yourself a top candidate by following these companies on Twitter. So our final tips for conquering our quarter life crisis, and I have some time for questions at the end. So you're going to set goals. So without goals, we don't know where we're going. Super important to set those goals. You can lay them out in your personal mission statement if you want to go that route. You can just have, bullet points of your goals, put it on your iPhone. I'd like to, just have it with me. You pull them out to look at them and think about them if you're making any career decisions so you remember what you're setting out to do. Don't compare yourself to others. Utilize social media to look for jobs, to go onto LinkedIn. Don't utilize it to let it make you feel like everybody else is moving to a place that you're not moving to. Try really hard not to compare. Remember that what you see on social media is 1 minute of somebody's 24 hours of their day. So try not to compare. Do what you love. Utilize some of these assessments that we talked about earlier to really find out what your skills are, to learn more about what your values are, and just try to put those together to make a choice that's going to make you happy. This isn't about making your parents happy. This isn't about having a career that's going to make sense for your major. You're in a different place now. You know more about yourself than you did when you were in college. Take this opportunity to really figure out what you love and go into that direction. Once that happens, hopefully your quarter life crisis will be averted and you will get a new job that's going to make you much happier. These are some resources that I've used to put together this presentation, and I know Alexandra's going to get you this presentation, so you will have all of these and look at it at your leisure. The last two are two books that I have utilized and recommended to my millennial clients, which they have found super helpful and interesting. So you may want to pick up one of those for yourself as well. And here is my information, my contact information. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Email me, take a look at my website. I see clients at my office in New York City and also see a lot of clients via Skype if anyone is interested in individual career coaching. And you can follow me on Twitter. Please do. So I am going to turn this over to Alexandra now. She has a few Brandeis things to tell you, and then we're going to leave it open for questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pamela. So if you could actually just go back to the previous slide for just a second, we'll take questions first, just so that we can get as many as we can. So the first question is, I think, pretty common. Essentially, this listener didn't know what they wanted to do while they were in college, so they majored in what interested them. But now that they're a few years out of college, it seems like prospective employers are only interested in what he already knows how to do and expects new employees to hit the ground running. So how would you suggest getting your foot in the door of jobs that are of interest to you but might require additional training or a learning period if it's not directly related to past jobs?
I would definitely try to learn what is required for a new industry job and try to get those skills on my own time before I took the leap. Whether it's a weekend class you can take, an online tutorial, and make sure to put those skills on your resume or in a cover letter to explain that, you're a career changer. Obviously, pull out the transferable skills that you have from your current career, which I'm sure there are many. And then add those to the skills that you've already got, knowing that you're going to be making that industry jump. So I think it shows a lot to take that initiative to try to gain those skills before you are entering into an interview situation or a new job situation.
That's a great point. So you mentioned transferable skills, and I think, especially young candidates and people that are fairly new to the workforce think about a very traditional resume being a chronological resume. Could you talk a little bit about maybe some different types of ways that you can organize your experience if you are looking to switch careers?
Yes, absolutely. So there's something that's also called a skills-based resume, and that sort of takes out the chronological piece. You're still, of course, listing what your jobs are, what your jobs were and have been, but you're really focusing more on the skills that you have. So if you were in a job where you did a lot of research and analysis, you're going to have, great quantitative skills, great research skills, maybe some great presentation skills if you've had to present your work. Those are all skills that are very transferable to most jobs. Most employers would value those skills. So you want to really focus more on your resume on the skills that you have rather than the specific jobs where you got those skills. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And I'm sure you may have at Hyatt some samples of what a skills-based resume might look like should somebody want to look at one.
Yes, absolutely, we do. On our alumni careers website, which is brandeis.alumni.edu/careers, we have a number of different types of resumes that you can look at that are samples. So thank you for that plug.
Sure.
So here's another great question. If you know someone works at a company where you recently submitted a job application, so yay, but you haven't connected with them in a while, is it appropriate to ask them for help? And so yes or no, and then if so, how?
Okay, so I'm going to back up for 1 second just to make a general statement about, what, in my opinion, the best chain of events is. So in your best case scenario for this person or any of you listening, the best case scenario is when you have found this job at the company and you have found that this person works at the company, would be to sort of do this simultaneously, to apply for the job and then let the person know at the same time that you've applied for the job and send them the link to the job. If that doesn't happen, if that didn't happen organically right away, but you have later found out that that's the case, you absolutely should let the person know. And I'll tell you, a couple of reasons why. First of all, most companies would prefer to hire somebody who is referred from somebody on the inside. So most human beings, that's going to put you in another pile. That's A. And B, sometimes companies even reward their employees for referrals by giving them actually financial incentives to do so. So, I think you can look at it as, hey, I'm doing this person a favor also. So absolutely let the person know, hey, I know we haven't spoken in a while, hope you're well. Just wanted to let you know I've applied to this job and you want to send them the link to make it as easy as possible. Would you feel comfortable putting in a word to human resources on my behalf? Just very, very simple.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, this is obviously, like Pamela was saying, you really would love to do this ideally earlier in the process. So when you find a job that's of interest to you, the first thing you should think about doing is going onto LinkedIn and seeing who you know that works there. And depending on your relationship with them, if you do know them well, you could certainly ask them to submit, your application on your behalf, or you could take a step back even further and say, hey, I would love to talk with you about your experience at the company to see if it might be a good fit for me. So depending on, what your relationship is with that person, your ask could be bigger or smaller. But great question. Pamela, so going back to our beloved LinkedIn for a moment, are there any keys to attracting more recruiters to your profile? And so I'm sure you're going to talk about keywords. And then follow-up question to that, is being recruited for a job seen as more impressive than other routes, given that the candidate was approached first? So that's kind of an interesting question, just about recruiting in general.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start with the first part of the question first, and that, as Alexandra said, goes back to those keywords. So sort of doing that exercise that I mentioned before by looking at the job descriptions for the types of jobs that you want and seeing what the keywords are in the descriptions and doing your best to incorporate those keywords or phrases into your LinkedIn profile, sort of as often as possible without seeming like ridiculous overkill, is sort of the best way to have a recruiter find you on LinkedIn, because they're typically using their own programs in order to find people, and those programs are loaded with the keywords. They're typically not searching by themselves by hand. There's typically programs that are going to get them to the right candidates, and that's utilizing those keywords. Now, as far as the second part of the question with a recruiter, I don't know the answer. If it's easier, I think having any connection to a company is a great way in, and having a recruiter who has that connection to a company is also a great way in. So I can't say one is necessarily better. It's certainly, having a recruiter approach you is certainly going to be better, quote unquote, than sending in a resume blindly without a connection. I hope that answers. Alexandra, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Obviously, the easiest thing for any job seeker would be to be contacted by a recruiter, because people are coming to us, and that, that's really flattering, and that makes us feel good. We feel wanted. But I don't think it's more impressive than getting a job through other channels. It's just another channel to think about. And depending on what industry you're in, working with a recruiter might make sense, or it might not. So we have another question here about a resume. So in terms of, you were talking about mission statements, and we've heard from some career changers. What is your opinion on putting a mission statement or something like it directly on a resume? Because this listener has seen conflicting views on this.
I personally, this is my personal opinion, don't think that belongs on a resume. I think on LinkedIn, you can utilize a theme from your mission statement in your summary on LinkedIn. I think that's a fantastic way to use it. I don't think the actual mission statement would go on a resume. I think you can certainly, in a cover letter, explain more about your mission, maybe why you're changing careers and why you think the career that you're choosing is a great fit for you, and how your skills will transfer well to that career. I think that would be a place for it, but not directly on a resume, no.
Okay, great point. Yeah, and I think there's also slight differences between, your personal mission statement, which is really about your own goals for your job search, versus, a professional objective, for example, that could potentially tie your resume together or go into your cover letter, as you mentioned.
Agreed.
So I think we've answered all of the questions we have time for today, unless someone can type theirs in really quickly under the gun. But do you have any final remarks for our listeners today, Pamela?
I just want to get back to the resume question for 1 second,
Sure.
because I'm thinking maybe the question was about having some people have a professional summary at the top of their resume.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that maybe is, what a mission statement could be. But I would say the professional summary on the top of a resume is really more about really more about your skills and accomplishments than your mission, so to speak, as you said, Alexandra, which is more personal in nature.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. I think, the objective or the professional summary to go on a resume, which you and I have talked about before, is really about what you can do for the employer, not what the employer can do for you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Any last thoughts before we get to our final slides of the hour?
I think I'm talked out. I hope everybody feels like they are feeling a little bit better about their quarter life crisis, and that this webinar today is a bit of a jump start for them to have some renewed enthusiasm and strategies to look for their next job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. If you could just flip to the next slide for me, I'm just going to share with all of you a couple next steps. So first is, please take a moment as you're logging out today to fill out our satisfaction survey and let us know what we did, how we did. And also, I would like you to register for our March webinar if you are so inclined. We actually just got a question in that we don't have time to answer today, but the question was, what's the best way to land an interview? Welcome to our March webinar. Ace the interview strategies that gets results. It's going to be a great discussion, very practical. Also, like Pamela mentioned, get on LinkedIn and connect with other Brandeis alums. We do have our Brandeis University Career Connections group on LinkedIn that's open to all Brandeis students and alumni from all academic programs. So here's the link right here. And you will also have access to the alumni directory in bConnect, which is searchable by keyword. And you can actually get alums' direct email addresses. So you don't have to go the message or invitation to connect route. You can actually just email them directly. So it's a great thing that people often forget about. I also want to let you know that Brandeis undergraduate students and alumni get free career services for life through the Hyatt Career Center. So you can call us to schedule a free one-on-one advising appointment. And no matter where you are in the world, it could be in person, via phone, or Skype. And so we hope to see you. I also wanted to launch the last of our polls, which is, I'd love to know what topics are of interest to you for future webinars. And if a topic isn't listed here, please feel free to pop it into the event survey as well when you complete that. So it's up on your screen right now. If you could just take a second, we want to do programs that you want to hear about. So would you be interested in networking strategies? Interviewing sounds like it is a good topic for you. Resumes, cover letters, a deeper dive into LinkedIn, breaking into a career in a specific industry. You can select as many of these as you like, and then certainly give us more info in the follow-up survey, and we'd be glad to schedule these for the coming months. Thank you all so much for voting. It looks like we have a nice mix. I guess these topics were good ones. So excellent. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and just bring you to our last slide now. This is the contact information for me. Again, my name is Alexandra Stevens. I've been your moderator today. I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Career Programs and Engagement here at the Hyatt Career Center. We host webinars every month, free of charge at noontime on a variety of career topics. So thank you guys so much for joining us. As we mentioned before, you'll receive a recorded version of this, as well as a copy of the slides directly to your email later on this afternoon. So again, thank you so much for Brandeis for joining us today, and we hope to see you at our next webinar.